Just who's looking after our most at-risk children? Because what you're about to see, quite frankly, is appalling. We can't tell you her name or show you her face, but her story is tragic. Tonight, for the first time, we reveal how a newborn baby girl suffered awful injuries, allegedly at the hands of her mother. What's worse here is the very department that's supposed to protect her failed. And sadly, she's not alone. Here's Chris Allen's exclusive report.
It breaks my heart. We're talking about a newborn.
This is another example of a poor, innocent baby that didn't stand a chance.
Just weeks old, and she's suffering catastrophic brain injuries allegedly inflicted by her own mother.
So I was very shocked at that. I can't think of how a mother could do that.
This is a close relative of the injured baby. She's speaking out, even though we can't show her face.
What makes me very angry that there's meant to be people that are the voices and they're not.
The Department of Child Safety were notified about the concerns that face this baby and took no action, I understand. And now we have another baby clinging to life.
Former child abuse cop and now Queensland Opposition Police spokesman, Dan Purdy.
I understand that on the 1st of March, a baby was born on the Sunshine Coast. Before that baby left hospital, the Health Department sent an urgent notification to the Department of Child Safety, raising legitimate and urgent concerns about the safety of that baby. Some of those concerns related to the mother of the baby taking the child back to a commune off the reservation where she lived that had no running water, and other high-risk persons were living there.
It makes me very angry that the department isn't doing the right thing by children.
All I kept thinking about that night was this poor little child, this poor little freeway cold baby that got taken to hospital when someone could have been out and maybe had prevented this.
Carla Reardon is a former child safety officer with 30 years' experience in 3 states. Clearly no one went out and checked on that child in 3 weeks.
No. And what do we have? A child in hospital and a mother allegedly charged with grievously bodily harm on a freeway cold infant.
For legal reasons, we can't identify the baby or its parents. What we can tell you is that before this happened, the father was jailed facing firearm and drug charges. And now, of course, the mum is facing a charge of inflicting grievous bodily harm on her own child. Family members have confirmed the details, telling us that finally the baby is in the care of the department, but will forever suffer brain damage.
I think you're meant to do everything to protect them.
I think all of Australians are sick of hearing these tragic stories coming out of Queensland week after week.
Willow Dunn was just 4 when she was allegedly left to die in her filthy cot 3 weeks ago.
At the time of her death, Willow was experiencing serious malnourishment.
Willow's father Mark Dunn and stepmother Shannon White have been charged with murder. Family members say Willow was known to the Department of Child Safety.
Why was no one actually going and looking at her? And the fact that no one actually did that. You know, no one asked, I think, after her. It just shows a system, again, that isn't working. And why isn't it working?
Queensland's Minister for Child Safety, Di Farmer, refused to discuss the case.
I am unable, under the legislation, to comment.
A few days later, and the Minister also refuses to comment on the case of 2 autistic teenagers found wearing nothing but nappies, locked in squalid conditions. The boy's father had died of a heart attack. This vision taken by neighbours, who say the case was known to the department.
Nothing's changing because no one is taking responsibility at the top levels of government where they should be.
But the government can't ignore the findings of a coroner into the death of another toddler, Mason Lee, who died as a result of injuries inflicted by his mother's partner 4 years ago. The coroner found the department failed that little boy in almost every way possible, saying even though Mason was known to the department, no child safety officer actually cited him in the last 3 months of his life as he died a slow and painful death. The coroner said 21 child protection officers failed Mason Lee, and yet none of them were sacked.
I think if I was one of those workers responsible, I would expect to be sacked.
I'm saying to you, this is not human error. These staff are working in a broken system.
I had a young disabled child that the department had lost for 2 weeks and there was no paperwork done. He was allocated to a worker that had been on unpaid leave for over 8 months.
So the poor kid had no one looking out for him.
He had no one looking out for him.
The case Carla Reardon is talking about happened in 2017 when she was working in Queensland. Carla calls them ghost workers, child safety officers who are still on the department's books but have either left or are on leave. Trouble is, Carla claims no one is looking after the children assigned to their care.
We had nearly 40 cases allocated to workers who had left or who had been on unpaid leave for a period of time.
So how would you describe the state of child protection in Queensland?
Chaotic, crazy, overworked.
Carla left the department 2 years ago and lodged a complaint with the Ombudsman, who she says is still investigating her claims.
I contacted Di Farmer several times before I went to the Ombudsman. I also reached out to the Premier. They literally flicked me back to the department. No, they did not have any interest in what was happening with ghost workers, the fact that children weren't being seen.
Dan Purdy says the case of the newborn baby who wasn't seen by the department in spite of the hospital saying it should do so in 24 hours proves little has changed since Mason Lee died 4 years ago.
It's not good enough. It's unacceptable. The people of Queensland have had enough. All of Australia is sick of hearing these stories come out of Queensland. Someone needs to take responsibility, and responsibility starts at the top.
It's disgusting, isn't it? The Queensland government refused our request for an interview. Can you believe that? How many more kids need to die? Its statement, meantime, is on our website.